From Delmonico Farm in New York, here's Max Tucci. Welcome to his table.
Hey, welcome back to Welcome to My Table. I'm your host, Max Tucci. We're doing another episode for you because I love you that much. But tonight, we have a friend of mine who's joining us. You know, like, not only do we have, like, an Italian connection, but we have one that's even deeper because it's Firenze, Viva Viola. Can you guess who it is? Well, before I bring on my guest, I want to know, who are you welcoming to your table this week? You know, it's a new year, it's a new attitude, but our tables are really these incredible places, and that's what this show is all about. It's about bringing people to the table, to my space. I'm here in my barn at Delmonico Farm, and I'm going to welcome to the table tonight my friend, the one and only Chef Gabe. Gabriele, andiamo. Dove sei? He's in backstage, and now he's on the show.
I'm right
here.
I'm right here. Oh my God! I was hoping you would take me out of backstage into your beautiful Delmonico farm.
Siamo qui. We're here.
I mean, Max, how are you doing, honey? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm glad for anybody who is watching us right now, not just listening. I'm glad that we both are wearing this beautiful green. You know, you're much more stylish than I am. You know, but well, you are. You're just. But I'm glad that we both wear a little green. You know, the holidays have passed, and you know, God. We still. What do you mean, thank God? Come on. Don't you love Christmas, Natale, Capodanno,
you know,
La
Chef
Befana?
Gabe, I'm going to just call you Gabe. I'm going to cut the chef out.
No, call me Gabe. No, cut the chef out.
Gabe, here's the reality. You know, for me, and I'm telling you the truth, I love Christmas, but I love Christmas in Firenze, as you know.
Okay.
And we're going to get there. Because
right.
like here in the States, especially, and I love the restaurants, they're packed. Delmonico's is packed. Tucci's packed. Va bene.
Yeah, of course.
But it's like, you know, there's such you got too many buttons. What's going on?
I was like, is it too much? Is it too little? I'm like, I don't know.
You know what? By the time we're done, it will be off. So listen, you know, it's like what happens during the holidays in the States for me, it's so commercial. You know, and it's like the spirit of Christmas in Natale, in Firenze, proprio una cosa bellissima, hai capito?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And
it's true. It's true.
That's just for me.
I feel it. No, I understand. There is a lot of pressure here in the U.S., you know. While in Italy, definitely the holidays are connected to family, spending time, you know, in a very simple way. And I think it definitely feels a little bit more authentic there. So
absolutely.
I get you.
You get it. So look, since we're talking about Firenze, let's talk about the genesis of Gabe. Where were you born?
Oh my God.
Tell me like the bambino in the carriage story.
So I love that. I was born in our beautiful Firenze, you know, one of the most beautiful cities in the entire world. The only city that had two Renaissance, you know, like the amount of art and beauty that we're surrounded by, and you know that very well. In Firenze, it's amazing. So since I was a kid, I was very fortunate to be surrounded by all of that. I was born on the other side of the Arno River, right? So that would be
which side?
Oltrarno. See, here you go. I knew it. Let's not get into the details, okay? It's on the other side of the Arno River, Oltrarno, close to Palazzo Pitti. So in the heart of Florence, and you know, as you know, I always knew that food, conviviality, spending time at the dinner table was a very special ritual for me and for my family. And so I lived there. And when it came time to actually decide, you know, what am I going to do with my life? And I was very young. I was, 14. You know, in Italy, you already have to choose a high school, as you know, that it's specialized in something. So I knew that I wanted to go to, you know, into food. And so that's kind of where I started my career, you know.
From right from the get-go.
You know, from a young age, yeah, of course.
So was everybody, I mean, obviously in a Florentine kitchen and in an Italian kitchen, everyone's cooking. But I want to talk because this is kind of like, I'm on like a weird experience for me right now because we're a similar age. We both grew up in Firenze because I grew up also in Firenze. You know, I was on the other side.
Oh, you were on the bad side. Got it. All right.
Dipende. I'm on the Piazza Libertà side, okay? Via Bolognese,
That's
direttamente
nice.
da Bologna. Pero, without
Oh my
giving my
God.
address, I'll tell you
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
So, we grew up next to Villa La Pietra, okay?
Yeah. Of
And
course, of
so
course.
I think what you and the both of us, what we experience is something very unusual because yes, we were born into this beautiful city of Firenze, which is magical, which is the Renaissance, which our blood, is purple. We have a whole different blood in our system. And also, what's the most interesting about Firenze, and I said this on the Italian American podcast show, and I was like, I'm going to get shit from the Florentines, but our cuisine is very different. It's very farmer. It's the tripe. It's the codo di
100%.
gallo ripieno con carne, which is the neck of the rooster filled with meat. The ribollita, right? It's like very farmer food. So growing up in the kitchen, what was your earliest memory of cooking something we can't say unusual because to us it was the normal.
Right.
But what was like the earliest memory of you in the kitchen?
The earliest memory, and I know this for some viewers or listeners it might sound a little strange, but it was walking with my grandmother. We had a house in the countryside, a farm close to Ronta in Mugello, and walking out, going to the place where the rabbits and the chickens were. And we would pick a rabbit. We had many rabbits, and I love that. And we would pick a couple of rabbits, and literally, we would kill them there, and then we would walk back into the house, and we would cook those. And it would, we would do that in the morning, and then, skin them, and then by dinner time, we had two things. We had rabbit, how do you say rabbit again in Italian? Oh my God, coniglio. Coniglio alla cacciatora.
Guarda,
Coniglio
sei
alla
americano
cacciatora.
adesso che devi spiegare tutto italiano. Ma vaffanculo.
No, I won't forget.
How do you say
Coniglio alla
rabbit again in
cacciatora,
Italian?
coniglio alla cacciatora, e coniglio fritto. So those
fritto
were the
bellissimo,
things,
però.
right? Fritto buonissimo. So those were, and I know that, for me it wasn't very unusual. Coniglio, rabbit is all over Italy. It's something that we eat, but especially in Tuscany, as you know very well. But, for an American market, right? When I came to America and I was like, okay, let me get rabbit. Everybody looked at me as like, what are you going to do with the rabbit? It was very, it's very, very, very delicate. It's a very,
because it's like,
very
let's cook the
soft
dog.
spot. Yeah, it's kind of the same
like the
thing.
cat. Bring the cat in.
There was this, I like that you say that Tuscan cuisine, it's very much about, it's a peasant style of cuisine. And I like that because it was, and that's how I grew up. I grew up literally with my grandmother walking to the orto, or, to the place where the rabbits and the chickens and the goats were. And that was our lunch or dinner,
Ritual.
And rituals,
What was your grandmother's name?
Her name was Viola. Viola.
Viola. Guarda, Viola.
Viola Anna. Yeah. Viola Anna. Exactly.
It's interesting
so
about the
that's
rabbit.
one.
Because, when we were little, my sister Nicoletta and myself, we had the rabbits too at the villa.
Yeah.
And like we were very obsessed with do not kill our rabbit. So we would go and we would get the nail polish, okay? And we would polish the nails on some of them. And those were our like pets, right?
Yeah.
And so I had this zio Francesco, che lui proprio un bucaiolo, in il senso che he went into the little rabbit hut and he killed our rabbit. And it was on top of the cage. And my sister Nicoletta went in there. E lei piangere, she was crying.
Yeah, of course.
And la mia zia Mary, like she went after Francesco. Like, if the rabbits have the painted nails, you don't touch them. Basta.
I like that. That's a good, that's a good. But don't you think that as kids, right? As kids, it creates a sense of responsibility towards, the animal, towards the food. Like I remember
a bigger
cooking,
appreciation.
Of course, but I remember cooking, the rabbit, and I can say the same thing about chicken or about cows, about, anything, or wild boar actually, which I, used to go hunting wild boar all the time, cinghiale. I remember everybody in my family, and later on when I became a chef, everybody in the kitchen used the whole animal, there was literally no, leftover. There was nothing that we would throw away and don't eat.
Never.
The liver, the skin, like everything, was like something that we would do with. And so I think there is a beautiful lesson there, as you're a kid. Yes, it can be a little traumatic, but there is that the bond and the understanding that, when you are eating, it's a special occasion, and especially when you're eating, something like, beef or, a cow or, a chicken or a rabbit. Yeah.
I think it's also a very deeper understanding of not wasting, right?
Fully. Yeah.
Like we grew up in a country where waste was something that we didn't do, because it's a respect to the animal, it's a respect to ourselves, and it's a respect to the art of eating. Right, and speaking of eating, my Uber Eats just arrived. So, Fran, go get the food.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. What did you order? What did you order?
What did I order? So tonight, Suzanne, who you met, Suzanne, RUP, she wanted Chinese food. So but it's Chinese sushi.
Oh my God.
Yeah, pero guarda, I'm like in the Campania right now, so we don't have any options.
Sorry, you get Chinese sushi in upstate New York? What were you talking about?
We're an hour out of New York. I've tried to get you up here many times. If you were here, I have a Garland range you can cook on, and we wouldn't have to Uber Eats because Gabe would be in the kitchen. But someone doesn't know how to take the Metro North, Suzanne.
It's very okay. I got it, Max. I got it. Yep. I know. I feel bad because you invited me so many times, and your farm is absolutely stunning, and I promise you that I will make it there.
Okay. Well, listen, before you make it here, you're leaving Italy, and we could talk about it. Like, Italy could be one whole show, but you end up, of all places, you moved to America. What was your calling to America, and what made you go to Arizona?
So I know this is very strange, isn't it? So I grew up in a very loving, like American loving family. Like I really don't know why, but my classmates, even when I was younger, everybody thought that I was half American and half Italian because we were so, infatuated with, especially my father. My father, this comes from my dad, and Giovanni. And Giovanni used to have travel agencies all over Europe, and they were called American Dream. And he would specialize in sending.
Wait.
People.
Your father was American Dream?
Do you know American Dream, the travel agency? Who knows? No, yeah, here we go. So he would send
Windows
people
of Tuscany, American Dream. These were like the best of the best.
Yeah, so he would send people from Europe, mostly Italy, to America. And so I spent a lot of time when I was a kid in the States, especially doing tours of national parks. I mean, by the age of 14, I did almost 70% of all the national parks in the U.S. So we would literally take the car and spend 3 weeks every year just driving around. So when it came down to, I finished my culinary education in Italy. I moved to Paris, was working in kitchens.
Where did you study in Italy?
I studied at a school which you know very well. It's called Buontalenti. And so I went to the Buontalenti. I was working along the way. One of my first jobs in Florence was at Sabatini.
No, aspetta. Stop, full stop.
With Carlo. Yeah.
No, basta. Okay, all right. We're gonna fuck. Okay, so Claudio Schiavi.
Hello, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Is my family. His father, worked at Delmonico's.
No way.
And brought that training back from Delmonico's to Firenze, to Sabatini.
No way.
So you and I definitely met, and we had no idea who we were. Okay.
I mean, it's very possible.
Sabatini. Okay, for those that don't know Sabatini
we
was
have to talk about
Sabatini. The smaller version of Delmonico's mixed with the Rainbow Room. It had this most incredible garden inside with the glass,
stunning.
Stunning. And they would bring, table side. They would do the flambe and they would do the certain things. And they have the curry there, which is my favorite. Okay, but everything about Sabatini was the Delmonico way. I write about it in the book. The tablecloths, the linens, the silver. You walked in and there was that. Wait, this is so my uncle Francesco Monti.
Monty, absolutely. I
remember
Francesco very well.
This is the one who killed the rabbit. And he was always up front. Bravo. He was the one up front at the bar. So Sabatini, you guys have to realize, Sabatini is still open today. The Schiavi family doesn't own it any longer.
Yeah, it doesn't own it anymore.
It's changed, but it's still good. But back in the day when Gabe was there and when I used to dine with my father and my mother, it was like going to there was nothing else. It was the most elegant. It was like if you were in the 1940s and you pulled up in a Jaguar, you would go to Sabatini.
Yeah.
So
You're
my
absolutely
God.
right. And, you know, it was funny. There was
servers.
it's a service. I think we want to touch on that eventually. You know, I love you brought it up. It's the service. You know, it's like, and that's what you get at Del Monaco. Actually, you know, when I come have a little steak with you there. You know, a beautiful steak. What always impresses me, it's again the service, which is very Italian, you know, very old school Italian, which
the
means
Caradon,
it's so,
Madonna.
oh my God, it's stunning, right? And so Sabatini was the same. It was, that's where I actually learned, you know, at a very young age. I was there from when I was 16 because I did a stage there through school, and I stayed there for like 4 years. And, you know, I really literally learned the art of service, right? And of course, the quality of the ingredients, you know, classic Tuscan cuisine, one of the oldest restaurants in Italy. And it was at the peak. So after that, I decided to kind of go up and move to Paris. I stayed there for about a year. And then somehow Arizona came to be because I wanted to go to college. Nobody in my family has gone to college. For me, it was very important. I also love to, I don't necessarily love to study, but I love to learn. And I've always been very entrepreneurial. And so I decided to apply. So I went to Arizona State University. That's why. I went to Phoenix. I went to Arizona State. And, you know, there is a big difference between Firenze and Phoenix. You know, it's a different. But I'm glad
between Firenze and New York.
Firenze and New York.
Firenze there's only one Firenze.
I agree. I fully agree. But I'm glad I ended up in Arizona because, you know, it allowed me to be a big fish in a small pond. It allowed me to really build up who I am as a chef and who I am as a person. And then I open up, you know, my restaurants and my catering companies and my dining
but slow down
companies.
because that's a lot. Starting a business. So now you leave Firenze. Wait, we got to go back to Firenze real quick. You remember Leo from Harry's Bar?
Of course I do, Leo. Yeah.
Okay, you know Harry's Bar just reopened, right?
No, I didn't know that. No,
go follow them on Instagram. They're
God.
and the pink tablecloths at Harry's Bar are because of Firenze, of Delmonico's. And my father brought them there.
Amazing.
Yes, in 1953, my father brought all these tablecloths over from New York that were the pink Delmonico tablecloths, 1953. And he had like a Cadillac and he would park in front. And then in the 70s, when he had his Cobra, his Mustang Cobra, he would park right in front and Leo would come out with the Negroni, right? And I mean, you know, right next to the Arno, you know, so the Sogno Americano, so the American dream.
Oh my God, yeah,
so
the American dream.
I get caught up in Firenze. So now you come to Arizona and you're like, oh, I started a business. But was it easy to start a business for you in Arizona? Because it's like impossible to start a business in Italy. So how was it to start?
Yeah. Well, you know, it was very organic, right? This is how it happened. Is that every Sunday I was missing, you know, cooking for my family and my friends quite a lot, and so every Sunday I would do, you know, Cena della Domenica, right? So with friends coming over, and this became like, you know, this Sunday supper became something that at the beginning was just like 2 or 3 people, and then ended up like become a really large table because, as you know, we never say no when it comes to, you know, can I bring a friend?
Welcoming people to the table.
Welcome people to the table. Please come on over and sit down. And so I started to realize that what people really need, and this was actually 2008. This is like at the peak of the crash, of the recession. I don't know, you know, if you remember. And
of course.
you know, people stopped going to restaurants. People stopped spending money, you know, left and right. You know, you know, people were losing homes, and they were. I think we were all craving some sort of connection with one another, more than just going out and spending, you know, $500 on, you know, on a so-so meal. And this is kind of where, you know, my mind came. I was like, you know what? I'm like, why don't I do a Sunday supper club every Sunday? And the idea of it's 30 strangers coming together. We do a 5-course, 5 wines, you know, pair one, sit down, you know, beautiful service, just like Sabatini style. And, you know, the menu changes each time. It's going to be in a different location every time. And the whole idea here is to spend, you know, 4 or 5 hours with, you know, people that you might know, you might not know, but then leave the table feeling, you know, that you made connections, that you
fulfilled.
actually, you know, feeling fulfilled, which is what happens in Italy all the time when you leave the table.
Because in
you
Italy, we don't just feed the body. We feed the soul, we feed the mind, we feed the friendship, we feed the curiosity. Everything about being Fiorentino is really about the artistry of life and really like like welcoming all to the table. But not only that, when people leave the table, it's almost as important as welcoming them.
Yeah.
Because how are they
It's
leaving?
it's an orchestrated,
So when
it's
are we going to
orchestrated,
orchestrate this dinner here where we do the Sunday dinner here? Suzanne, right? I mean, we should be doing a table here, right?
Max Tucci, whenever you come and pick me up with your beautiful Bentley in the background right there. So you can just like,
Okay.
you can just come
Suzanne,
honk,
can you make a
and
side
just-
note? Let's have the driver go and when he's back, because he's bi-coastal, Mr. I'm in New York and California. So when he's
Oh
back,
my
and
God.
he can bring the dogs up here too, Suzanne.
Oh my
right?
God!
Yeah.
That is the most important
And we're gonna
thing,
tape
is
it.
that I can bring the dogs.
Yep, it's gonna be the first dinner with Gabe. You could bring the dogs.
I would love to. I'm
I'm gonna
that.
send 2 cars. You in the Bentley and the dogs in the Land Rover. Okay, I got you.
You know what?
I got your number.
This sounds quite amazing. You might be, I might decide to stay. You
that's
can
fine.
hire me as your private chef for the farm.
The
if you like,
cottage is available. You could live for free. I'm a furbo too, eh? I capito. So,
I love you so much. I love you so much. This is
So here's the deal. Suzanne, Fran is talking to my ear, and she's like, "Oh, we're gonna tape this. This is gonna be the best dinner ever." You got everybody excited, and they're not even gonna be invited.
Come on, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? The beautiful long tables.
Oh my God, it's the best.
It's what makes me so
literally
happy.
Behind
Yeah.
here, okay, I was telling Chef Baloo about this place because I have a bridge that I love a bridge, and we grew up with bridges in Firenze and the Ponte Vecchio. So I have a bridge that comes into the barn from the road, right? So literally, you can bring guests from the car, drive right into the barn. They get out of the car and into the table.
Oh my God!
Wait till you come up
That is
here. Anyway,
unbelievable.
yeah. So bi-coastal, we talked about a second ago. Are you
bi-coastal? Yes.
Listen, I lived in LA. I get it. I lived in Hollywood Hills. I had a fabulous house in Laurel Canyon. My studio for Max and Friends was there down in Studio City.
Right,
I get it.
Right.
But and it does have that charm though of like the Hollywood Hills especially has that charm of Italy and Greece.
Yeah.
Those small roads. I get it. But did you finally sell LA?
I did.
Okay, bravo.
So I'm full time in New York. I'm not bi-coastal anymore.
Okay,
I'm not
thank
bi-coastal
God.
anymore. Now I am in between New York and upstate at your farm, basically going back and forth.
Perfect.
Just like you.
That's still one state, so you're not by anything. You're solo.
No, listen. LA. It's I
gave
spent
you what
the
you
last.
needed.
I spent the last 7 years in LA, and I see life. I just turned 40, and I see life as it's like everybody, it's like chapters, sometimes it's actually a whole book. It's not just a chapter. And so I feel like I just closed a book and now we just start a whole new book.
Okay.
New York right
What
now,
does that
the East
book
Coast
include?
fits me so much better.
Aspetta. What's the title
Yes.
of the new book?
Oh my God. What's the title of the new book?
Yeah.
I have a title, but I don't think it's appropriate for this.
That's okay. We say what we want here.
Should we call it Top Chef Bottom Bitch, a memoir?
Perfect. Are you the top chef or the bottom bitch?
Well, you gotta
You got to come to the farm and find out.
You gotta make. No. I think what I need, right now in my 40s, what I'm really craving, what I love about the East Coast and about New York,
It's real.
It's real. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's real. And not that you can't find real people in LA, because I had an amazing group of friends and I still do, a family. This place gave me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoy being able to express my emotions without people not taking offense. You know what I mean? I like to scream once in a while. I like to say something that might feel a little brushed, and be okay with it, and people not being so butthurt about everything.
There's a song.
I love that. It's very real.
There's a song, and the song goes like this. It says, you got to live in California once, but leave before it makes you soft. And live in New York once, but leave before it makes you hard. Right?
Here you go.
Not in the hard of the way, Top Chef Bottom Bitch on, but where you turn off.
Yeah.
Because New York is so easy to it's unfortunate, and I love New York. I was born there. But we look down a lot in New York. We're not looking up, because we're so into the grind and beating the pavement. And that's why for me, the farm, an hour away, it's like, it gives me the opportunity to look up again and to be on the earth and be on the land and ground myself and not become like this hard New Yorker that's peace, bitch, bye. So I get it. But so now you're in New York. How did we even meet? We met through Aisha.
We met through
at
Aisha
and the
at
New York City
Delmonico
Wine
that
and Food
night.
Festival.
Remember? Yeah, the New York City Fine. Yeah, but I remember, the first time we actually got the chance to, to properly talk. I remember thinking, I was like, I think we met before, and again, I do believe that maybe. Exactly. I think that maybe in Florence there was a, crisscross of paths right there.
I know, Crisco.
I love what you say. Oh my God. I love the Tabasco. Which one you want?
Oh, Tabasco,
the Crisco.
Wait, and what was the other one? Rosa. You remember there was the private club?
Yes,
What was it? Monte Carlo?
Monte Carlo, the private club.
Monte Carlo.
Monte Carlo. Good. Yeah.
Yep.
On the Viale. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny.
God,
Tabasco is. I still tell all my friends about Tabasco. One of the most unique bars in the entire world. I mean, the location of it. It's what makes it so unique.
So you know the Ricci brothers too.
Yes, I know Ricci.
I've visto.
Yeah, Stefano Ricci, of course.
We met for sure in Firenze. I mean, you weren't so muscular then. You were
no, I was not. I was baby Gabe. But I love what you said about...
In Firenze, maybe is every son in Florence is gay. How could you not be?
It's very true.
With all that art.
I know, with all the art, with all those beautiful sculptures and, naked bodies around. I know.
It's very homoerotic.
One of my favorite sculptures all over Florence, it's Nettuno, the fountain of Nettuno outside of Piazza. And I would always, even with my parents, when I was young, we would always stop by, and I would just sit there and look at Neptune's, just in all his glory. And I was dang, this is beautiful.
Suzanne, make a sidebar. We're gonna have to have a sculpture of Neptune.
Yes, you do.
Built here on the farm.
Right?
Yep, right by the river.
Yes.
And we'll have a bridge that will go to the other side of the river. But so you were saying you loved what I said.
No,
what
I love what you said about. Listen, let's go back to the restaurant idea. I love that you say it's your stage. Every night it's a different show, and
a different audience.
Different, and whoever comes to your shows and chooses you, has an impact on you, and you have an impact on them, and this is a tangle of stories. You do this very, very well, and I'm always amazed by the energy that you bring, constantly. I never saw you, once saying, "Oh, a little more quiet," or tired. And I'm sure you are at certain places and times.
I'm exhausted.
But when you are, I'm sure you're exhausted. But guess what? You don't, when you are with people, when you are in your place, at your restaurant, when you are in your element, you don't show it. And there is a beauty there.
And thank you. And for the record, this is not drug induced. I do not, everyone thinks I do cocaine.
You're just like that.
I do not. I have never done cocaine in my life. You can ask everyone at the restaurant. I'm a water drinker, right? And when people ask me for a drink, I ask for the Titanic. I'm going to give up my secret now. It's basically ice water. It's ice water with limes and lemon and a splash, seriously, of pineapple juice. That is sweeter. And that's it. And that's my drink.
So that's called, that's called the Titanic.
Yes, because there was a woman by the name of Virginia Graham. Okay? You probably don't know who Virginia Graham is.
No.
Virginia Graham, she was like Moira, but she didn't own a circus. You remember Moira? Okay, with the big hair. Right? Yeah. So she was an actress in America. She was the first woman to have a TV show called Girl Talk on ABC. She used to come to Delmonico's all the time, and she would order a drink called the Titanic because she didn't want men to think she was drinking. So it looks like a powerful drink. It's in a balloon glass, lots of ice. It's got lemons and limes and a splash of pineapple juice, what I put in, and it looks like a strong cocktail. But when I order it, so she called it the Titanic because it's ice water. Funny. Yeah. But when I order it, when they're like, "Oh, what do you next one?" I said, "A Titanic." So everyone thinks I'm having a cocktail. Okay.
Of course.
Water.
Of course. I love that. Because I need to use that.
You have to.
I'm sober, and I always feel very, when I'm around and people are drinking. No. I like that. That's a good option.
My mother always taught us never let them see you drink in public. Number one. So we never drank, right? And then the other is I take the responsibility of being, the face for Delmonico's and Tucci seriously. So I'm not going to fuck it up because I'm getting drunk. And listen, if that's your thing, do it. For me, water. That's it. Yep. But listen, of course, in Firenze, I grew up smoking 3 packs a day. Now that's why I have my gola.
No, but in Florence, I know, right? In Florence, it's fun. In Florence, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's like it's part of the romance, being there.
Yeah.
You just a little bit of
So listen.
cigarettes and Negroni here and there. It's good.
Oh my God, yeah, but it's just like the cigarettes. You don't even smoke. You just hold them to be like
I know you
chic.
just hold them. Yeah. You
Oh,
hold them. Yes.
God.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna do a
used
dinner.
to. I'm not used to it anymore. When I go back and I smell the cigarette. I'm like, wait. I'm so not used to it. It's
Yeah.
something.
Does that make you want to smoke?
Um,
Sometimes.
sometimes I'm like, oh,
A
you
good
know what?
cigarette
Like,
in Italy is a good
At
cigarette.
the end of the meal, I'm like, I'll
At the
take a
end of
little
sex,
cigarette.
it's the best.
I'll do that.
Absolutely. Come on.
I
That
love
cigarette
it so
right at
much,
the end.
Max. I love it so much.
We have a similar path. Firenze, Sabatini.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Fucking my uncle who
We
killed
do.
my rabbit.
That is so
Monty.
funny.
Okay, and
is crazy.
Leo. But then like my path. Television happened, and it happened for you. My first gig.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this about me.
I know.
My
Tell
first
me, what
gig-
was your first gig, Max?
My first gig on TV, I was a lifestyle expert on, you ready for this? On America's Next Top Model with Tyra Banks.
No way. No
Yes,
way.
my niece was born. I moved to Italy. I moved to Florence for 2 years and didn't talk to my mother. Nobody knows this story. My niece was born. You're like my brother now, so I'm telling the story. And clearly everyone else. But
Everybody
my niece
else.
was born. And I had a lot of discrepancies when my niece was born with my mother, my sister. And you know how hard it is for us Italians not to talk to their mother. And I'm like, no, you know what? Fuck her. Like, she wasn't respecting me as much as I still loved her. So luckily I had the villa in Firenze and I escaped.
You went
and
there.
I went to Italy and I had a big S600 Mercedes coupe. Okay. And I brought this car to Florence and it had tinted windows, American plates. This is like 2001, like when the war is breaking out. And so my mother was so scared. And so I painted the license plates black so they wouldn't see like Connecticut on it. Right. And I had these big chrome wheels. And like the rumor was that I was Elvis's son. This was a true story.
Oh my God, no way.
There was a rumor that I was Elvis's son and I moved to the Florence villa and I had this big Mercedes. So anyway, I went to Florence. I came back to America after 2 years to surprise my mother during Christmas. My mother was getting a manicure. I walk in. She was like, oh my God, Max is back. Listen. Life happens and we learn. If we're always still learning, we're in a good place. The minute we stop learning, we're done. So I'm still learning. So I came home and then I went to a party and there was a guy by the name of Derek Kahn who was the stylist at the time for like Aretha Franklin and Hillary Clinton and Tyra Banks. And he's like, oh my God, who are you? My cousins own a shoe factory, so I had like the best shoes and the best belt. I had these black leather pants from Anna. Remember Anna Leather?
Yeah.
Okay. She would make all my leather pants. I lived in Berlin too, so I had all these black leather pants made, black cashmere sweater, but a camel belt and camel shoes. Chic, right? He's
love
like,
it.
where are you from? I'm like, Firenze. So he goes, tomorrow you're coming with me and you're going to be on America's Next Top Model with Tyra Banks. And we have no idea what it's going to be like. I'm like, count me in. So we went and that was my, started television. And then producers were calling me because they thought I was a chef. And so they're like, can
No
you
way.
do cooking segments? Because they knew
Why
about
did they
Delmonico's.
think- why did they think you were-
because
oh,
of
because of
Delmonico's.
Delmonico. Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
like, I learned how to cook in the restaurant and I learned how to cook in Firenze between Sabatini, between the villa, etc. So they started booking me on local news, News 12 Connecticut. I was doing What's Cooking, right?
Yep.
And so that's my path. But how did you first get into television? Because they saw that smile in Arizona.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't scouted in Florence. I wasn't wearing my leather pants when I got scouted.
Did you
for
have
that.
pants on?
Now that is a much more probable way.
Cause. All right.
No, so when I was in Arizona, I was doing all these amazing, supper, Sunday supper dinners, and they became very well known. We had to expand. We expanded to LA. We expanded to San Francisco, to London. I would travel to London, put everything on a plane, and go there and do this amazing dinner at the St. Pancras Hotel. And it's just like long tables, and they would come. It was amazing, and I did that for like a good chunk of my life, and so we got some traction in terms of TV.
So wait, were you in your
articles and
20s
so
or your
forth.
30s?
No. I was at that time. I was like right towards the end of my 20s, right? Maybe 28, 29. And then I started doing local news, just like you. I started doing these cooking segments that are quote unquote live, and you literally have 15 minutes. And you get in and you just like, try to do them all. And, I would bring the bag and, set it all up. And it was like, NBC News Local 12,
News 12 Connecticut.
or channel 3 would be like News 12 Phoenix. And it was fun, and I became like one of their main, chefs that was just there all the time.
Oh my God.
Everybody was always telling me, they were like, "Oh, Gabriel, you have something for TV. You're really good on TV." I'd be like, "Yeah, thank you." I never really wanted to be in front of the camera, or at least that was never my goal, right? And then I moved to LA.
But once it happened.
Then I moved to LA. But listen, this is the funny thing. So I moved to LA and I was like, okay, I want to leave Phoenix. I was in between like Phoenix and LA a lot.
Why did you want to leave Phoenix?
Well, because I say before, big fish in a small pond, and I kind of outgrew it. And I was like, listen, there is not much I can't give to the city more than what I've given. I just now need to go somewhere where I get inspired. And also I wanted to be by the ocean. I really wanted. I love surfing. I love hiking. I love I grew up in a family that sailed all the time every summer. So I needed that. And it was summertime. Of course, LA was very expensive for me at the time. And I say, you know what? I'm just going to trust God, right? I'm just going to put it out in the universe. I'm just going to get this house by the ocean that I cannot afford whatsoever. And, instead of going to vacation in Italy and other places this summer, I consider this my vacation. I'll take the money and I consider this an investment. So I go there, I get this house. A month later, Brunello Cucinelli calls me and he says, "Hey, I heard about your dinners. We want to, basically do a bunch of, stuff for our very high-end clients, and we want to do it at our private, So I start working for him, and I'm like, okay, great. Like this is, we do all the events and, beautiful long table, opera camps. We start doing dinners for opera. And then one day I get a text from a friend of mine, and he says, "Hey, there is a friend of a friend that works in TV. And he's looking for, and he reads me the flyer that they have. And he says he's looking for a Renaissance man that loves to cook, that understands art, that it's, empathetic and really, and he's reading this flyer and I'm like, well, that's me. Like, I mean, that's literally, they're describing myself. So he says, "Do you want me to give him your name?" And I say, "Sure, listen, go ahead. I don't think anything will happen." 3 days later, somebody else, completely unrelated, tells me about this opportunity and says the same thing. "Hey, can I send them your name?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" A week later, I was in their office and, production company kind of saw me and they were like, "Hey, we should do a casting." And it's a worldwide casting and, I think you'll be really good. And this is how I got my first show. The first show ended up being a show called Say I Do. It was 3 of us. It was me, Jeremiah Brandt, and Tiny Wynn. It was a show about weddings, and I was the chef, and it was a show about love. It was a show about these couples that, really wanted to come together and get married, but didn't have the money, or something has happened.
So I'm going to be honest.
Or help.
I didn't know about the show until
no, you should.
We knew you were coming on this show, right? So I watched it because I was like, I got to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that show, and I'm, a sensitive subject, but it was on the show. But that's the show that I would say changed your life in more than one way. No, because that's when you 100%. Became really honest with the viewers about your life. So if you want to share it, we share.
No,
it.
Of course, it is on national, television. I came into that show knowing that it was going to be an emotional roller coaster, because I am very sensitive and I think, dealing with these couples and their stories of love and why, things might not have worked out and, between them and then, do the wedding for them. I knew that it was my responsibility to be completely open so that I could actually create a relationship. I could allow them to be open, back, right, for me and be honest. And so it kind of happened naturally. Then, during the first episode, I came out HIV positive, and it was a very normal conversation with, one of the participants of the show, who shared with me that he was type 2 diabetes, and that impacted his life quite a lot. And that, he had to change a lot of things in his life. And as he was telling me about this story, I thought in my head, oh, whoa, I'm like, I'm sitting across this man who is, 50, muscled up, like straight, black, I'm thinking like, what do I have in common with this guy? And then he tells me this story and I say, oh, this is very similar to how I felt, the moment that I had to explore that issue, and I got diagnosed. And so I open up and I say, you know what, I have to tell you the truth. I'm like, maybe you think we don't have much in common, but we actually do. I totally understand, where you come from. And so that was kind of, a very natural moment. I think it was an important moment, it was years and years ago. But there weren't many people on TV. There were...
you remember Pedro from MTV?
That was,
from the real world.
That was, of course. I mean, we remember him. But there wasn't, after that, there wasn't really anybody on TV that had, an important show like this one, which was a worldwide show on Netflix, that kind of, put a little representation out there and say, hey, you know what? There are plenty of people who are HIV positive. They're undetectable now. And of course now there are so many, medical
but when you were doing this, hold
absolutely.
on. But there was a courage that you had, because the stigma of diabetes versus the stigma of HIV are two different stigmas.
Different. Of course.
So you were also you were taking a risk, okay, because of ignorance of people, of society. You were also the courage and a bravery to be open with that. What do you think gave you that courage to want to be like, all right, this is national television. This is international television now. The whole world is going to know. My life
countries,
okay, my life is going to be different once I reveal this. What gave you the courage to reveal it?
I never felt, shameful, right, about my HIV status. Never. And I've always been, I embraced it in a very beautiful way. I never let that dictate what I can or what I cannot do in life. And I think for me, the courage was like, I saw how many people actually let that diagnosis affect what they can and they cannot do, or define who they are and who they are not. And to me, I was like, if there is one thing I could have done at that moment, was like, hey, listen, you can do anything you want. You can work in a kitchen, you can have a show, you can be, healthy. I mean, I've been as healthy as I could ever, be, and you can do all of it. And this is just a part of you. It's not who you are. I think that was the courage. I wish that when I got diagnosed, I had somebody that I could just, look up to and be like, okay, you know what? It's not that sentence anymore.
What year was
define
that?
Who I am. Look at him. I mean, the show was the Say I Do happened right before COVID. So that was what, 2000, 2000 what is it, 6 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
So that
because
that
I think the importance, the importance
Yeah.
to where we've come as a society and a group of people with HIV is that you equals you, right?
Yeah.
And so many people don't understand what that means.
They don't,
Even
and Max,
today.
they still don't. I mean,
No.
that's a crazy thing. I talk to people many times, and they have these, they have these ideas of HIV as something
Of streets
that,
of Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna die at any moment, and nowadays, really, you can manage, this disease in a really
Tell us what you
healthy
equals
way.
you means for those that don't know.
Well, nowadays with antiviral medications, you can actually bring down the level of HIV virus in your blood to basically less than zero almost, or equal to zero, which means you cannot actually transmit the virus to anybody. And, whether it's sexually or in other ways, it's basically, the virus is in your body, but it's dormant and you cannot transmit it. And it's such a, it really did wonders for everybody, because
For the world, and not only gay, for straight too.
No, for everybody.
So you equals you.
Nowadays,
For those that
actually,
don't know, you equals you means undetectable equals untransmittable. Okay?
Yeah.
Undetectable equals untransmittable. There is so much literature about it. Please
So
go
much.
out and educate yourself, because
Yeah.
we are in a climate now where you know what, that is one stigma that needs.
we
that
don't
needs to be
need, and it needs to
Yeah,
absolutely.
it needs like
I
a
agree.
readjustment. A readjustment.
And also, you said it right. It's the group right now that it's mostly affected by HIV infection is straight, and it's unfortunately African American straight males and females.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the stigma. It's because we're not, we're not open enough. We don't talk about it enough. And so that moment.
No,
on
because we
Sedu
put a
was
shame
very,
on it. And it's like,
I
no
agree.
one goes
I
and
agree.
no one has a shame that they have cancer or that they have diabetes or that they have,
true.
this or that. So it's like, and here's the reality. Life is a beautiful thing. No judgment. People live their life. Shit happens. And you know what? We figure it out. And that's what makes us like these resilient people. But so there's no point to judge. All right. So like, if you want to judge, like you better lay low. But listen, speaking of judging, we are both judges now. I mean, you more than me, and you've been on Food Network with Chow House and all these shows.
Yeah.
But it was my first time being a judge. Can you believe this? On Beat Bobby Flay recently. That was
your first time?
Call Food Network.
Oh my God.
Call
Max,
Mr. Flay.
Max, you're made for TV. You're made for TV.
See, Bobby? Bobby, have me on your show again.
Bobby loves you. Bobby loves you. How did you like that? How did you like it?
No, I loved it. I was on with Melba, and we didn't know Aisha was going to be Aisha was going against. It was like the best episode. So, and I'm going to be on one more. So there's going to be more. But listen,
good.
There's a show that recently came out that you did with our buddy Anne Burrell.
Oh yes, Worst Cooks. Yeah.
Anne and I had a very unusual relationship because Anne and I don't know, we didn't see eye to eye, and it's fine and whatever. She was great. Everyone loved her. But how is it moving forward on a show where it must be really nostalgic and sad and melancholy and a whole bunch of emotions. What runs through, yourself when you see that show?
Listen, at first, first of all, let me say, Anne Burrell had many interesting relationships with many interesting people. I never heard anybody saying, oh yes, Anne Burrell, we had a straight on, relationship, everything was fine. Like never. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying that in a positive way, because either she was challenging you to see things differently or you were challenging her. And she's so straightforward. She's such a New Yorker.
Yeah.
She was such a New Yorker.
No bullshit.
Just like you say, no bullshit. Like you knew. If she liked you, if she didn't like you,
it's cilantro.
If she had
cilantro. There's no in between.
If she had an opinion, right? Yeah. If she had an opinion, if she didn't, and I enjoyed that. I was able to actually, really, really appreciate that when we started, becoming friends, which was fairly soon before we actually then shot Worst Cooks. It was kind of weird, it was very nostalgic seeing Worst Cooks, the first few episodes. It was kind of strange. And then something happened, and then I start seeing like the joy and the love that she always had to doing what she was doing, especially with Worst Cooks. I never met a woman that loved to teach people how to cook more than Anne. And
no, that's true. I'm going to tell you, I think for me, one of the biggest upsets that I have about my relationship with Anne is that we never got the chance to really know each other, because as you know, when I'm at the restaurant, it's like I'm doing a million things. So like you and I have this rapport because we've actually had a moment, to sit down
to
and
talk
and become friends. And I wish I could have had that, those moments with her, because we would have loved each other. I mean, that's for sure.
That's a side of, that's the dark side of doing, TV, is that you end up spending a lot of time together, but a lot of the time is, you're either performing, or you are maybe, when you're not performing, you're so exhausted that all you want to do is just go back to the hotel and sleep. So, there is only a few times where you actually get the one-on-one time, or you actually get real with the person you're with.
Exactly.
I understand who Max Tucci is, I understand who Anne Burrell is.
What's one thing you miss most about Anne?
She had this love. I missed the excitement that she had watching these recruits cooking and wanting to teach them. I remember her saying, all I care is for these people to leave the show and having learned 2 or 3 things more about cooking and go back into the kitchen and be inspired and actually, maybe instead of calling DoorDash, now this time they're going to cook a salad or they're going to make some pasta. And that was her goal. Like she didn't even think about, about like who is winning, who is not, or, she always told me, she's like, these people took time out of their schedule to come here and to be here. And, you know, it's few weeks of shooting. And so the only thing, you know, the most basic thing I can do, it's literally teaching them and inspiring them a little bit how to cook. So it was this, you know, this excitement and respect actually also for the, you know, for the profession, but excitement in wanting to teach, in wanting to be there, in, you know, wanting to be a mentor. And that's who Anne was. She actually inspired me quite a lot, because believe it or not, I'm not the most patient person, you know, like I'm not, like, for me, it was just, and I loved it. I love doing Worst Cooks. I hope I'll do it again.
You're a cook, you're passionate.
But I'm passionate, right? And so I'm looking at these recruits,
Chef.
you know, and Anne says to me, she's like, yep, they're that bad. And I was like, no, they must be acting. And, you know, and she's like, no, they are this bad, believe me, Gabe. And, you know, I had to kind of, you know, watch her chaperoning me through the show, because she really taught me how to, you know, slow down, how to be patient, and, you know, how to teach people the love for food, how to cook, and all of that.
You know, there's that great phrase when you learn
to
teach. I know.
Yes.
You know, Melba's coming on the show, and Melba said, you know, the same reflections. Melba's like, I miss her so much. But, you know, I love that it's that point when you learn teach. You know, and that's the beauty of doing television, is that we have things recorded where she can still teach and her legacy can still go on through these shows. All right, we got to move on. We have a game time. It's called What's Next?
Whoa. Wait. Where is the bell? Where, here, right here.
I got all tricks and things on my sleeve.
What? Yeah, I'm sure they're up to sleep.
I got a lot of tricks under the table.
Yeah, you have.
Yep.
Yeah, the whole farm is like full of tricks. Okay.
You know, can you keep a secret?
Sure. No, I can't. But tell me.
No, okay. No, can you keep a secret?
Tell me. Yes, I will. Tell me.
So can I. All right. So we have, it's called the 3 Fs, okay? The 3 Fs.
Okay.
So
okay.
What are we going to forget? It's a new year. What are we going to forget for 2026?
What we're going to forget for 2026? We are going to forget the idea of not being good enough. That's what we're going to forget.
I love
Isn't it good?
Because
we're just going to forget it. Because we are good enough.
That's
you know
right.
what?
If you don't think so, fuck you.
Fuck you. Because now I live in Brooklyn,
Welcome
so I
to
can
New
say
York.
it.
That's right. Fuck you.
Fuck
but
you,
you gotta
guys.
you gotta hang out with Aisha, and she'll teach you how to say fuck
Oh my
you
God,
really
she's,
good.
yeah,
All right.
she's
Next question. F. Who you gonna feed? Who do you want to feed?
Oh, I was worried when you say that. Okay. Who am I gonna feed? I want to feed you, Max. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people say that, but I do want to feed you. I really do.
Done.
Because I've not cooked for you. I want to feed you. That's it. That's for 2026.
For the record, our wonderful audience, the invitation has been put out many times.
Yes, it has. It's true,
all right,
it's
next
true.
question. Who do you want to frolic with? How you doing?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Who do I want to, oh my God. I don't have anybody I want to frolic with right now.
All right.
I mean, I want to spend time with my dogs, but I don't want to do.
Okay.
You know,
well, you can bring your dogs up. You know, it gets lonely at the farm.
Oh, I'm sure it does. It's like cuffing season, right? That's what they say.
It never again.
No.
I just had Eva LaRue was just on, and we're like, "Who do you want to frolic with?" And she's like,
I know. What did she say?
She said, "Whoever I frolic with next, I'm going to frolic the shit out of them." I was like,
You know
"Good
what?
for you."
That's good. I want to okay. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna frolic more. With intention, more intentionally. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I want to frolic more.
Look at you
like
maturing.
I want to leave. Yes, I want to look at that. I mean, I'm 40 now. I want to leave the situation.
You
I want to
turn
leave the
40,
situation.
You're
Yes, and all of a
maturing.
sudden I'm like,
You're gonna frolic with intentions. I love it.
Max, one of my dreams in life is to become a husband. I love being a husband, and I want to be a husband.
Okay.
So this is like, this is it. This is
Do you want
40
children
to 50.
too?
That's it. I don't want children.
God
I don't
bless.
want children. No, thank you.
All right.
No
You know,
children.
I love children. I love other people's children. All right, look, we got to wrap this up.
All right.
You know,
Let's wrap
this
it.
was the best. I loved hanging out with you.
Oh my God.
And thank you so
Same
much. You
here.
know, I love Welcome to My Table because having people, having you as a guest at my table is great. But seriously, promeso, we're gonna pinky promise,
Max,
that
pinky
you're
promise.
coming up.
I just want to say it was great to get to know you better today because we learn
Thank you.
from each other things that I didn't even know, and this is just very, very, very beautiful. So thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Listen, April, I'm going to be in Firenze, so you have to come there. All right? We'll see each other then. Before we go, thank you all for tuning in to Welcome to My Table with Max Tucci. Listen, always welcome people to your table because you never know the conversations you're going to have. Until then, I love you. Good night.